Hey there, it's Lisa Oliver. I'm an author. I write paranormal romances, and some of my series include things like the Cloverleaf Pack series, The Gods Made Me Do It, and at the moment I've just started a new Hellhound series. But I wanted to talk about something a little different today, namely, how are you dealing with your mental health? Writers, by the nature of their profession, we tend to work alone. A lot of us need the peace and quiet. It's really, really difficult to write steamy scenes when there's somebody looking over your shoulder and things like that. So writing is something we tend to do by ourselves. But sometimes, for many of us, actually for many creative people, I'm also an artist and I do resin work and paintings as well. But for a lot of creative people, for a lot of people, full stop. Living alone with your thoughts, being alone with your thoughts, being alone for long periods of time, something that's been made worse by the pandemic. It's not an easy thing to deal with. And there are times when you can wake up and just think, you know what, I don't want to do today. That has happened to me more times than I can count. And I believe that the most important thing when you feel down, it's okay to not be okay. But when you're not okay, I think it's really important is how you handle it, that you need a little bit of a system. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, their support system isn't there anymore. You know, people are going into lockdown. We can't just go and have a drink with friends. A lot of us have to stay home. And for people like me, we stay home by ourselves. So I wanted to just sort of make sure you were okay. When I'm down, and that does happen, I have had a history of mental illness for the last 40 years. So it's something I have lived with and managed for quite some time. At the moment, I deal with PTSD, something that's happened. I've had that for 20 years. I have learned to manage it. I have learned to live with it. And for the most part, working alone at home, writing my stories is actually one of the best forms of therapy I can have. But then there are some days, when I just wake up and I don't want to do the day. It's really difficult. Sometimes a text message can make me feel attacked. Having half a dozen messages on Messenger that I haven't answered can make me feel super pressured. And all it is I'm just having a bad day. That's all it is. It's not a major, it's not important, not really even important in the scheme of things. But on those days when I'm not feeling my best, those things really hurt. I feel things that much more intently. And so what I do, my go-to is curling up with a book. I tell myself it's okay to have a day. Okay, so I'll make sure I'm dressed because that might be the only thing I do that day. But I will get dressed, I will make myself a cup of tea, I will curl up with my Kindle. And there are times when I will read absolutely all day. And you know what? That's okay. Because if that's what it takes for me to get through a bad day, then that's okay for that day. The thing is to make sure it doesn't last longer than a day. For a lot of us, we're really hard on ourselves, and I've noticed that amongst the writing community that most of all. We can get 200 good reviews and we fixate on the one bad. We criticize ourselves so badly. I think it's because we put something out there, and in everything we write, it's a part of our soul. So it's like giving away a part of ourselves when we release our books. And if they don't do well for whatever reason, or sales drop, or, as I say, we get one negative review and it's like somebody's taken our reason for living and just slashed it off at the knees. It might sound overly dramatic, but part of that drama is how we're able to create the stories that you love to read. And so, yeah, it's the swings and roundabouts. We have our really awesome days where we write these amazingly good stories and they're fun and they're uplifting and we make our readers smile. But then everything has to be balanced. So when we have those really high days that it's absolutely brilliant, you just know that the down day that's going to follow is just not. It's not a fun pace to be in. But what I'm asking you today, and the only reason why I'm sharing any of this today, is that because January is a really hard month for a lot of people. We have been through Christmas. Many of us have done it alone. I was fortunate. I did see my family for the weekend before Christmas, but I spent Christmas Day and New Year alone, the way I always do, or the way I have done for some years. And then it goes into that new year, and as a culture, as a society, we were really hoping that, maybe this pandemic wouldn't be such a big deal anymore. And, oh, look, here in New Zealand, we've now got Omicron. Oh, brilliant. Yep. 2 years we've been dealing with the pandemic, so has everybody else in the world. New Zealand's not special in that regard. But it's tiring, mentally tiring. It's mentally difficult to keep going and to convince yourself that things are going to be okay. So I'm telling you that it's okay not to be okay. But what I'm asking you is, if you're not okay, can you please go and talk to somebody? Because the hardest thing is to not be okay and to be alone. So wherever you are, can you go and talk to someone? And if you can't, get in touch with me. My contact details are in the back of every single book I've published. And just, don't be alone. Just find somebody to reach out. Find somebody who can emphasize, who can understand. And if for some reason that's not possible, then sit down and write how you feel. Write it down on a huge sheet of paper. Everything you're feeling. It doesn't matter. Don't censor it. Don't edit it. Don't do anything else. Just write it just for you. And then throw it away. Or do whatever makes you feel good. I know that in the past 3 weeks, you see this, my little e-cigarette. Not promoting them, but I'm saying my e-cigarette. I haven't had a proper cigarette for 3 weeks today, which is a huge undertaking. But I have, when I've been trying to write, I have been taken, I've found my mind, it's gone on scenes that's supposed to be romantic, light-hearted and funny, have taken some rather nasty turns. And there have been a number of characters that I could have quite easily have eviscerated or totally smashed to smithereens. And it was very difficult not to. But that's how I process my feelings. I didn't realise that choosing not to smoke was going to be quite so impactful on my mental health. But what I did was, rather than, upset my books, because I happen to adore my characters, I turned around and wrote down those scenes, those rather horrific scenes that I was thinking, into a totally different file. And who knows, maybe one day I might even release them, the Lisa Oliver's Book of Horrors or something, which could be quite hilarious, because I don't write like that at all. But look, this might sound like a bit of a rambling, but there is that point. I want you to know that I have days where I'm not okay. I want you to know that it's okay that you're not okay. I'm just asking that if there are days when you're not okay, can you please talk to somebody about it? And if that person's me, that's fine. You know where to find me, okay? And in a time of a pandemic, if you do have people around you, can you please go and give them a huge big hug? because believe me, not being able to hug the ones you love is the thing that upsets me the most. So to my kids, my grandchildren, I'm sending a cyber hug, and I'm sending another one to all of you. Hug the ones you love, my friends, and try and have an awesome day. Things will get better, I promise.